Good evening and welcome to the October 21, 2025 City Council regular hybrid meeting. I'm Mayor Salim Neese, and this evening's hybrid City Council meeting is being brought to you in person and by Zoom. We're also broadcasting live on the city's YouTube channel. Welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Council members, have your microphones turned on for roll call. City Clerk Andrea Larson, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andral.
Here.
Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Weicker.
Here.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Here.
And Mayor Neese.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can you please note that Councilmember Anderall has joined us remotely? And speaking of remotely, if you've joined us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please turn off your video. If you're in council chambers, please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now move to approval of tonight's agenda. If there's no questions, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Becker.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
And Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, motion passes. The agenda is adopted. And next we have the City Manager report. We welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you, Casey, for the screen share. Let's go to the next slide, please. Council, here's a look ahead to the next few weeks. I did want to confirm that we are holding our council meeting on Tuesday, November 4th. That is election night, but our agenda will conclude probably by 7 o'clock at the latest that evening. Just to note, several board and commission meetings, as noted there on the screen, and we keep all of our commission meetings updated on our website at the link on the bottom of that slide. Next slide. Council, I wanted to give you a construction update as we just cut the ribbon on Roanoke Playground. We are focusing our attention now on the First Hill Playground replacement. We're underway, if you haven't been up there yet. Our construction company is preparing to install the new borders and the concrete curbs, and we're anticipating this project will be wrapping up in a couple of months, but I wanted to assure you that it is underway. This was one of the playgrounds with the oldest equipment and probably most in need of replacement. So excited to see that project underway, funded from the Parks Levy. Next slide, please. This is a reminder. We have a survey open right now to review 3 design concepts for Clark and Groveland Beach Parks. You may recall that we're working on a joint infrastructure plan. In other words, we're planning for infrastructure improvements at both of these beach parks at the same time. We'll be having a staff booth at the Town Center Trick-or-Treat on Friday, October 31st, where people can stop by and learn more about the design concepts. Otherwise, we really want the community to participate in the survey and give us their feedback. We'll be keeping the survey open through November 3rd, and it is posted on our Let's Talk page. Next slide. Wanted to just share some work that Youth and Family Services is doing. I try to highlight one of their programs at each council meeting. At the first Youth Belongs meeting of the school year, which is a partnership with Youth and Family Services, the school district, and the police department, the teams came together to talk about youth behavior, including growing use trend in growing use of oral nicotine pouches such as Zyn. The school district is really pleased with this partnership and learning more about things that are happening for youth in our community. So I wanted to just say, as an outcome of that meeting, Youth and Family Services created some educational materials for parents, coaches, and students to educate them about the risks of nicotine pouches, and really proud of the work we're doing on prevention. Next slide, please. Just a reminder, this weekend is the city's fall recycling event, Saturday, October 25th. It will be back at the boat launch from 9 to 3. We have a range of items that we take at this event. Also, speaking of Youth and Family Services, the foundation will be out on Saturday collecting gift cards and monetary donations. That is a longstanding partnership where they come out to this event to raise funds for youth and family services. Shout out to the many partners that help us put this together, the Department of Ecology, King County Solid Waste Division, and others. Next slide. I just mentioned this a moment ago, but a reminder, we're doing our town center trick-or-treating on Friday, October 31st from 3:30 to 5:30. The early start is to allow the little guys, preschool age, to get out a little bit earlier before the rest of the kids are out of school. I keep hearing about this candy tractor. So it sounds like Recreation and Public Works have something fun planned for the community. I also know that Police and Youth and Family Services teams will be out as well. Next slide. I wanted to welcome one of our newest officers, Chase Font, graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy last week. He will now be out in the field doing his training. Congratulations and welcome to the team, Officer Font. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you for that. Our next item of business is appearances, which is an opportunity for anyone to speak to council on any item except items requiring public hearing, quasi-judicial matters, or campaign-related matters. City Clerk, do we have anyone for public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, tonight's agenda will include in-person public appearances and remote public appearances via Zoom. Individuals wishing to address the council may do so in person or by Zoom or telephone, provided they register with the city clerk by 4 p.m. today. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be called by name. Remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole and not to individual council or staff members. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the city council may be requested to leave the meeting. Please speak audibly, state your name, city of residence for the record. There'll be a timer on the screen. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. When your time's ended, I'll thank you for your comments. Move to the next speaker. City Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker tonight is Eric Radman.
Right here at the podium, sir.
So thank you, thank you, City Council. I'm Eric Radman. I've lived on Mercer Island for 25 years, and I live near the library. I want to talk a little bit about the water tanks, and I just want to thank the City Council for all the updates and everything they did to make those tanks more accessible and safety. But one thing I noticed, my wife and I walk around those water tanks, is that there are some issues that I think that the City Council should take a look at. One is the diesel generator and the diesel supply are outside and they're not protected. What I mean by not protected is they're not protected from tree falls. So it's very clear to me that if a tree fell on the generator or on the diesel supply station, that possibly could wipe them out. And I think it'd be very easy for somebody just to take a look and see if that issue needs to be addressed. I have pictures of what I'm talking about. If I may, I can give them to you. It's on my iPad, and give them to you, and you can take a look at what I'm talking about. But I'm not sure I think that it needs to be addressed, but I'd like the City Council just to take a look at that and see if, yeah, we should probably do something about this, or make a decision, a conscious decision that, no, we think we're okay, and no need to address this issue. So if it's okay, I'd like to bring up my iPad and show you the pictures. There's 3 of them.
We'll let you work that out with the city clerk, and you got the Public Works team is all sitting right in front of you, so I guarantee you've got their attention.
Who's that? Okay.
This is your chief of operations for the Public Works team, so you
So
can,
what would you like me to do with this?
I'll just let him gaggle with you at the back of the room, and you can show him.
Okay.
Do you have any more public comments? or-
No, that's it. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Mayor, our other speaker is Addie Smith. However, I don't see her in the meeting. Would you like to move to the next item of business?
Okay, well, going once, going twice, we will move to the next item of business, which is the consent agenda, which contains 4 items, which are available on the screen and in the agenda packet for review. Council, is there a motion to, I'll let you get that on the screen. Okay. Council, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker. Aye. Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
And Councilmember Becker.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Our first item of regular business is AB 6796, which is the Sound Cities Association voting delegate for the annual meeting, for which Councilmember Weiberg volunteered and which Councilmember Weiberg was the voting member last year. So, absent any other takers, I'm going to move to, no? That was close, you almost got it. All right, council, is there a motion to appoint Councilmember Weiberg as the voting delegate for SCA annual meeting December 3rd, 2025?
So moved.
So
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weicker, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Becker.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker. Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Motion passes. Our next item of regular business is AB 6790, which is the 2025 through 2026 Capital Improvement Program Update, and we welcome Chief of Operations, Jason Kidner.
Good evening, council. Jason Kidner, Chief of Operations. It's on, check. Turn it on. Perfect, thank you. With me this evening is Kelly Hildy, our Deputy Public Works Director, overseeing the capital engineering team, Shelby Peralt, our Parks Capital Manager, and Clint Morris, our Capital Division Manager. They're with me in person, and then in the remote format, online, we have a number of our project managers this evening. And we're here to provide an update on the 25-26 Capital Improvement Program, where your staff and your team is working on a number of different projects across a number of different divisions and functions. And so we have a 55-slide presentation, lots of pretty pictures to show you tonight, but they're broken out by function. So if you have specific questions about a project or about that function, I would encourage questions before we move on to the next one. So with that, I'll turn over to Kelly to lead the charge on the number of projects that are modernizing our infrastructure and building resiliency into our facilities. With that, Kelly?
Thank you, Jason. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. So I'm going to start with a quick overview of the Capital Improvement Program, our CIP. Every 2 years, as part of the budget process, staff develop a 6-year plan that lays out how we'll maintain, improve, and invest in public infrastructure, things like buildings, utilities, parks, streets, and technology. Each new CIP cycle begins in the spring of even-numbered years and concludes with the adoption of the biennial budget later that same year. It's a big, collaborative effort that helps us plan ahead and make smart, strategic investments across the city. Tonight, as Jason mentioned, we'll be highlighting 6 of the 8 CIP program areas, and those are the ones that are shown here in blue. For this biennium, the city CIP totals about $105.5 million. Most of that funding supports our public buildings, parks, streets, and utility programs, the areas where we continue to see the greatest community need in infrastructure investment. Altogether, the 25-26 CIP includes 148 active projects. Of those, 137 are managed by the Public Works Department. Projects span all areas of city infrastructure, with the most in the water utility and parks, each with 29 projects. We also have 25 street projects, 20 public building projects, 18 in the sewer utility, and 16 in the stormwater utility. It's a substantial workload for our 20 staff members who manage everything from planning and design to construction and maintenance. And finally, none of this happens without the team. We've got a talented group of engineers, landscape architects, project managers, inspectors, and management staff working behind the scenes to keep projects moving and on track. Their combined experience and collaboration are what makes it possible to deliver such a large and diverse program. Most of our team members are here tonight, as Jason mentioned, and available to answer any questions you might have on their specific projects. We really appreciate the opportunity to share their work and highlight the progress happening across the city with you and the community. And with that, I will pass it to Shelby, who will provide an update on key park and public building projects. Okay, perfect.
Okay, like Kelly mentioned, we're in the midst of a very exciting undertaking with nearly 30 capital projects planned for this biennium with an $18.1 million investment in our parks and open spaces. A major highlight is nearly 1/3 of that funding actually comes from grants. This is a major achievement that reflects our team's success in leveraging external resources. Progress is already visible. We have 5 projects that are near completion or complete this year alone. All this work is guided by our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, or PROS plan, which is a 6-year roadmap for our park improvement and development. Before we go into the project highlights, just a quick snapshot of our park system. We have over 60 parks, nearly 30 miles of trails, and 18 playgrounds. Next slide, please. So kicking things off with our completed projects at Luther Burbank with the boiler building. Some of you joined us for a site tour last week where you saw key improvements including the seismic upgrades, chimney height reduction and stabilization, a new roof and chimney cap, and then renovations to our restroom and concession area. Construction wrapped up in 2024 with final closeout underway and expected to wrap up by year end. This project was supported by nearly $778,000 in Washington State grant funding. And these improvements actually set the stage for Phase 2, which will focus on activating the building for public use and providing a hub for community and recreation programming. Next slide, please. Now, the South Shoreline project focused on restoring and protecting the area between the docks and the swim beach, boosting aquatic habitat and stabilizing our shoreline at Luther. Key improvements included adding fish habitat gravel and the large woody debris, relocating and upgrading trails, removing invasive species, and planting native riparian vegetation. Construction wrapped up this summer, and final closeout is also underway and should be completed by year end. A fun fact for the South Shoreline project is that the invasive plant removal and the shoreline planting was actually completed by volunteers and the Conservation Corps crews. This included 87 volunteers joining us across 3 events in 2023, showing that this is truly a community-driven restoration event. This project was also supported by $240,000 in grant funding from King County. Next slide. And then to round out the 3 completed projects at Luther Burbank this year, the former tennis courts have been transformed into the Jake Jacobson pickleball courts, named in honor of Councilmember Jacobson's dedicated service to our community. This project replaced the aging 1970s tennis courts with 8 brand new pickleball courts, had new surfacing, striping, nets and fencing, accessibility and drainage improvements, and we restored the Summer in the Wetlands mural that you can see in the back of the image. Most construction took place in 2024 with final coatings applied this past June. Closeout should be done by mid next year. And then this project also received $193,000 in grant funding from King County. The last project I'll be highlighting for those completed project highlights is the Roanoke Park playground replacement. This was the first completed playground project with support from the 2022 Parks Levy. It revitalized the play area by adding a large climbing and slide structure that you can see on the left side of the picture, swings, a spinner, and a play structure for younger children, as well as enhancing accessibility throughout the entire park. Construction contract work is all complete, and our city crews will be finishing up planting, irrigation, and fencing later on this year. Slide. Now shifting to the active park projects, our major upgrade will be happening at Luther Burbank. This will be upgrading our docks, waterfront plaza, North Beach, as well as site access, all in alignment with our 2006 master plan. Key features include renovated docks, an accessible overwater stair and platform, improved ADA connections between the plaza and the beach, and a variety of other site amenities. The project recently hit a major milestone. We received shoreline authorizations from both Fish and Wildlife as well as the Army Corps, and we're at 90% design, and plans are now under building permit review. Construction is scheduled to begin early next year and take us through mid-27, And just want to highlight that this project is supported by $4.8 million in secured state and county grants. Next slide. First Hill, like we mentioned earlier, is well underway under construction. This is the second playground project that's supported by our 2022 Parks Levy. As you can see in the site plan on the top left, the new play area, once it's done, will have a large climbing and slide structure, swings, and fun nature-inspired elements like steppers and a log tunnel. Additional improvements include an accessible pathway to the picnic area, to the play space, as well as through the entrance. Construction began this summer and will be wrapped up later this year, and our closeout will happen in the first half of next year. Another project well underway is the site plan for Dean's Children's Park. This is the third playground project we're working on that's supported by the Parks Levy. This plan will guide future improvements to the park with a focus on universal play, accessibility, and upgraded amenities that reflect community needs. From April through August, we had an extensive community outreach through surveys, school-based activities, and city event booths to gather input from families, kiddos, and park users. The photo on this slide is actually from one of our school visits to Lake Ridge, where students were able to vote on their favorite play equipment and what themes they wanted to see shape the site plan. The preferred design will head to the Parks Commission next month, with council adoption expected early next year. Phase 1 is planned for late '27, and just a note, we see this project as a strong candidate for RCO grant funding. Rounding out our active park projects is the joint infrastructure plan for Clark and Groveland Beach Parks, and this lays the groundwork for improvements over the next 10 to 15 years. This effort focuses on a range of upgrades, from dock and shoreline improvements to accessibility enhancements and amenities like restrooms, signage, and parking. I'm just gonna ping this one more time and say that this is your chance to weigh in. We have 3 design concepts for each park that are available for input through November 3rd, and this input will help shape our preferred plan for each park. Planning will continue into mid-26, and we see this project as a strong potential for grant funding as well through RCO. And with that, this wraps up our sampling of completed and active park projects, and just again to highlight, many of which have been made possible with the support of state, county grants, and our Parks Levy funds. Any questions before I move into the public buildings?
Councilmember Reynolds.
Quick one. You said, I think, that the Roanoke was the first one that was done under the Parks Levy. And I'm trying to remember back, I believe we've got through that funding for 15 parks in 16 years or something like that. It was roughly 1 a year. It's been 3 years now and we've got the first. I'm assuming that's because there's a lot of planning that you have to do
Yes.
once you start. But does that mean that we might get more than 1 a year going forward in the occasional year, or is it, what's the timing expected?
Potentially. So you're spot on. We have completed the first project. If you recall, actually, the Dean's Children's Park Playground was the first one on the original to-do list. But given the size and magnitude and the other elements associated with it, we swapped projects to slow that one down to a larger public engagement process, which I think is beneficial to this community, beneficial to the end project. So in terms of the out-year projects, there is a potential where you could see 2 playgrounds completed in a year. We haven't penciled out exactly how that will fall and which year, but that is a potential possibility down the road.
And if we get to the end of the Parks Levy, but we haven't finished, will we be able to carry over the money to do some in years 17 and 18?
Seems like we could probably get back to you.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable making that commitment. The money will be spent. In fact, one of the things we didn't mention is that we cost estimated based on 2021, 2022 dollars, and we've seen pretty high inflation. So I wouldn't want to characterize us as having money left over.
Wishful thinking on my part, perhaps.
Yeah, I would say very wishful. But what you can see is as Jason just mentioned, you know, we had an order that we anticipated, but we evaluated very quickly and made some changes. The other thing I want to call out is we actually identified the playground structures, not just the playground. So like Lid Park has 2 playgrounds over here on the west side. So those were 2 separate projects. So I think you'll see the team looking at how we potentially combine and do 2 at once in the same location. So that's still a long runway, more than 10 years of work left, but we're underway.
Okay, thank you.
I'll also add too, we're applying the different construction techniques to the applicable playground. So, for example, you saw some put in place at Roanoke. At the First Hill Park playground, you're not going to see as much of that surfacing. It's a combination of surfacing. So we are trying to stretch those dollars where possible and maximize their use in the redesign of these playgrounds as well.
Well, the work looks beautiful so far, so keep it up.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Shelby, I know your visits to the school were very popular. I got lots of positive feedback about that. For the Groveland and Clark Beach projects, what's the engagement like with the neighbors around there? Or do we mail them and encourage them to participate in the survey? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Sarah has actually sent out mailers to all of the neighbors within a 1,000-foot radius of the parks. And she's also taken meetings with specific neighbors that have reached out to her with concerns or just some questions that they have about the overall process. We've also had posters and flyers at the parks that we're working on, and then we'll also have some tabling events at Arbor Day at Clark Beach, which is happening this weekend. Above and beyond that, we've been tabling at other community events, so trying to meet the community where they're at through the Mid-Autumn Festival and with the trick-or-treating.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, not seeing anything else.
Okay, moving on to public buildings. There we go, perfect. We're also making strong progress on maintaining and improving our public facilities with 20 projects underway and a $15 million investment in our buildings. So far, 4 projects are complete or nearing completion, showing steady momentum across our program. These efforts support the city's 11 owned and operated facilities, which provide essential spaces for public services, civic engagement, and day-to-day operations. This ongoing investment helps ensure our buildings remain safe, efficient, and responsive to the needs of both the community and our staff. Kicking off our completed projects in the Public Works side of the house is our Public Works facility itself, which underwent key renovations to meet modern seismic safety standards. Highlights of our work include replacing the heavy green roof with a lighter, more efficient roofing system, reinforcing structural elements like roof joists, masonry walls, and shop door openings, one of which is in the bottom image here on your screen. Adding a fall prevention system to improve worker safety, upgrading stormwater systems, and installing site fencing. Construction wrapped up this summer, and we anticipate closeout by spring of next year. Just a quick shout out to everybody that's listening in. This facility remained open for the duration of construction, and just really appreciate everyone's patience and flexibility while all of these important upgrades were happening. Earlier this year, we completed some much needed renovations to the thrift shop. Key improvements including rebuilding the front and side walkways as well as our garage, upgrading lighting, heating, and drainage systems, and improving accessibility with new ADA parking and an access ramp like the image that you see on the right. To help expedite our work, the thrift shop closed for 2 weeks in February. During that time, our staff tackled interior upgrades like painting, deep cleaning, product reorganization, and wall repairs. The store then reopened in late February, and exterior construction wrapped up in March, and final painting was done back in April. The result is a more functional and accessible space for both our staff and many shoppers that visit regularly. Okay, we wrapped up this upgrade over the summer, and it marks a big step forward in how we manage facility security. Instead of relying on traditional keys, we now have a more efficient and secure system across 3 of our facilities, the community center, as well as the admin building and caretakers facility at Luther Burbank. It's not just about better access control. The centralized software and reporting tools also make day-to-day management more streamlined for our staff. And now I'll shift gears from the completed projects to active work happening. This is one of 2 projects that's happening at the community center, and it focuses on replacing the original heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC system, which is now over 20 years old. The aging system has led to increased maintenance needs, service interruptions, and inefficiencies, all of which impact our day-to-day operations. Not to mention, they're difficult to access, which you can see here. You have to remove panels in order to be able to get to the HVAC system. We began with a system assessment to identify the best path forward. That report is nearing completion and will include cost estimates and upgrade options that we'll bring back to council for consideration. Design and permitting are anticipated to begin in 2026, setting the stage for a much-needed system upgrade. And then the second project that's happening at the community center is focused on addressing persistent groundwater intrusion issues. These problems have caused damage to the gym flooring, which you can see in this image here, interior finishes, and our building systems, resulting in operational disruptions and costly repairs. We issued a request for qualifications to bring on a consultant team to investigate the root causes of this issue and provide recommended solutions. We're currently reviewing submissions with negotiations expected to start this fall. Planning will follow with design and permitting targeted for early next year. And this project will be key to ensuring the facility remains a safe and functional space for the community. And then last but certainly not least is the 9655 building improvements. This 22,000 square foot facility needs several immediate upgrades, including our HVAC, roofing, asphalt repairs, and accessibility improvements. Staff are exploring potential interior modifications as well to create functional, efficient, and secure workspaces for our teams. We've advertised a request for qualifications to find a consultant team to help us with planning and design. Submissions were actually due today, and we got 10 proposals. So we'll begin reviewing those proposals and start negotiations later this fall, with planning continuing into early next year. And we'll come back to you next year with updates on project phasing, funding needs, and a timeline to get the building up and running. And with all of that information, I'll pass the baton to Clint.
Actually, Shelby, can I
Yes.
cut in here? Council, I just want to go back. Could you go back to the Public Works Maintenance Facility real quick? Council, I just want to remind you the nature of the work at the Public Works building was to buy us about 5 to 7 years. It's really important to note that the building is at the end of its useful life. You're well aware that we have a bond measure on the ballot. We were possibly on the verge of needing to close part of this building due to a significant problem with the green roof. So I just wanted to remind you that the work here was the short-term repairs. I'm not sure that Shelby mentioned that. And then let's flip back to the 9655 building. When we acquired the 9655 building, we did our due diligence and we identified a couple of deficiencies in the building that was known to us prior to executing the sale. That included an HVAC system that was at the end of its useful life, the roof needing to be recoated, and elevator repairs. The interior is in good shape, but obviously needs carpet and paint. So those things I just listed off are the minimal things we need to address to be able to occupy the building. That was part of our negotiation, as you are aware, but the community may not be aware that at the time of purchase, we negotiated a lower price to offset the work that would have to be done to occupy.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, not seeing any other questions.
Good evening, everybody. Moving on to streets, pedestrian and bicycle facilities. We have over 25 projects in this biennium that are either under construction or in planning or will be in planning next year. 5 of those have been completed. Our budget is over $12 million. $2.2 million of that is funded from Sound Transit settlement funds. Some quick facts about the road network. We have 84 miles of roads, over 25 miles of sidewalks, 17 miles of paved shoulders. Next The first project we're highlighting is the town center parking facility. This was on the old Tully's Coffee property. Work involved removing that building, regrading the site. That created a 35-stall public parking lot with conduit for future electrical vehicle charging. It will have bike lockers. In fact, this week, landscaping and bike lockers are getting installed. The lighting will be installed in November. And final project closeout for this will be in probably early next year. Next slide. We've done some work on Island Crest Way. In 23-24, we started some Island Crest Way corridor improvements. That project carried over into 2025 before it was completed. And the project we're focusing here was 3 crosswalk improvements in the Island Crest corridor between 53rd and 68th. This photo is showing the new pedestrian activated traffic signal at the entrance to Island Park Elementary. The other 2 crosswalk enhancements were at Southeast 62nd and Southeast 63rd, and those received rectangular rapid flashing beacons as a way to enhance those to make them more visible to drivers. This project wrapped up this summer and is probably going to get closed out with council early next year. Next slide. Another Island Crestway corridor improvement, which we are currently in the design stages of, is a shared use path along the west side of Island Crest from Island Park Elementary down to Southeast 60th. So that new path, as shown in this picture, covers the entire frontage of Island Crest Park, as well as it will link up to that pedestrian signal that was in the prior photo, because that's right at the entrance to the elementary school. We are in the design phase of that right now. Construction is planned for 2027, and we have received an $850,000 TIB grant fund, or grant for that project.
Congratulations. Good grief.
Next slide. You probably saw this project in the town center over the last year. This is the 80th Avenue pedestrian improvements. This project replaced sidewalks that were built in the 1970s and 1980s. These had a lot of damage from the nearby street trees. They were narrow, they weren't ADA compliant. So this project replaced sidewalks from Southeast 32nd all the way up to Southeast 27th. Added new pedestrian landings. It added a new street lighting system to replace the one from the 1970s. And it also replaced numerous street trees along that corridor. This project finished earlier this year. Closeout's probably coming to you early next year. Residential street resurfacing. This is an annual program to resurface the neighborhood streets on the island. We typically are paving about 1 mile a year. We have 58 miles of residential streets. This particular photo is some paving that happened just a couple of weeks ago on 86th Avenue. This is in the neighborhood that we just are finishing up a water main improvement, and we coupled the street resurfacing with that water main work, and the paving company is wrapping that project up in the next several weeks. Every 3 years we collect pavement condition data that we use to help guide us in selecting which streets are paved when, and that data was collected this summer, and that will be used in the coming years to help us prioritize future residential street repaving. Any questions on streets,
Councilmember
roads,
Reynolds.
and bikes?
I needed a memory refresher again. You said 58 miles of residential streets, and we do about a mile a year. I thought I remember being told before that pavement typically lasted about 30 years. Is that correct? So if it is, it seems like we're behind schedule. Can you comment?
I think we're repaving them at about the right rate. I said at least a mile a year. Some years we're getting a mile, others we're getting a mile and a half or two. When I look back on the last 10 years of mileage that we have paved, we're at about par with that 30-year lifespan.
Okay. So it hasn't been a deliberate slowdown due to budget constraints or anything. It's just kind of natural ebb and flow?
Correct. Some years, the streets are wider, so we don't cover as much length. Other years, we get into a neighborhood where the streets are smaller and narrower, and we can cover a greater distance. Again, I look back at kind of a sliding 10-year average, and again, we're kind of at par with where we should be. And
Okay. And is 30 years about the right estimate? Am I remembering correctly on that?
we have some streets that have lasted longer than that.
Okay. And what share of the residential streets are chip seal instead of asphalt?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Because those last about half or 2/3 as long, is that right?
About a third of the lifespan. However, we still have some residential streets that were chip sealed in the 1980s that haven't been resurfaced yet.
Okay.
So that 30-year lifespan is an average target. That's not necessarily that at year 30 we come back and repave it.
Right.
As those streets get into their 25-year, 30-year, that's when we're watching them on that pavement condition index program where we collect the data every 3 years. We're starting to see those age, their condition score starts to drop off. Those are the ones that we get into the 6-year TIP program for paving.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's important too to note, so the data is driving a lot of the decision making. So we're recollecting data every 3 years, but then we're also coordinating with our other utility projects, right? So not only city projects as we hear, we get to the water projects in particular, the supply line that we're gonna talk about later. There's a number of street projects that were originally planned for replacement earlier, but we've slid those back to be completed after the water project, so we're not paving a road, digging it up, and then repaving it again. Not only our own capital projects, but also coordination with other regional partners, right? I mean, you see construction trucks around the island right now. Those aren't city trucks a lot of times. Those are partner contracted projects that are out there. So we are trying to schedule that work accordingly with not only our projects, but also other impactful projects as well. So it could slide that scale a little bit because of that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Weicker.
Can we take a minute then, Jason, to talk about all this grant funding that's coming through from your team? Because this $850,000 is quite notable, and that just doesn't happen on accident or by magic. Like, can you talk a little bit about how awesome your team is for bringing in this money to help us make our budget go further?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a component, so you see the TIP every year. We're doing the 6-year CIP every 2 years with the biennial budget process. A component of that work is where the entire team is looking at possible grant or alternative funding sources, trying to stretch our dollars further. Our team has done a remarkable job of securing those grants in the recent history. They continue to prioritize that work where possible. Not every grant is perfect, right? So there are certain opportunities that we pass on because it doesn't fit what we're doing or need, but certainly we are looking, that's an active part of our work that we do, is we're trying to find those alternative outside funding sources where possible.
And if I can add to that, when it comes to parks, we really look at the RCO and what grants are available. That's on a 2-year cycle, even years as well. And we actually look at our project schedules and deliverables to make sure we can get deliverables like grants, cost estimates, community support, everything that is required for that grant to time that in, the first quarter of the even year, so we can start preparing for those presentations. RCO grants are extremely competitive, even more competitive now. with limited federal dollars. So we want to go in with our best foot forward with the projects that make sense. So Clark and Groveland, as well as Dean's, are two that we are planning on applying for next year.
And those, one of the conditions of the RCOs was the pros plan and the ADA, I think I remember.
Yep,
So
that is correct.
we did our part too.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I had a question.
Okay, Councilmember Anderl.
Thanks. Back to the street repaving, can you just tell me, and maybe I knew this, but I don't recall, what are the primary drivers for why pavement ages? I mean, is it just traffic, or does weather have a component? Are there other components that, I'm just out of curiosity to kind of understand?
Yes, everything you said is a factor. Its age, the weather, the amount of traffic it carries, utility work that might disturb it. So, as Councilmember Reynolds said, we've stated before that residential streets last about 30 years. That's the typical lifespan. The arterials on the island last a little bit less, 20 to 25 years. That's because they carry a lot more heavy loads. More trucks.
Right, and the asphalt lasts longer, but it's more expensive, and the chip seal can be redone for less money, and so you guys balance all that.
Correct. You have to have a pretty good road structure to put a chip seal on it, because the chip seal doesn't really give you a lot of structural load carrying capacity. So sometimes a chip seal is a good alternative, sometimes a hot mix overlay is a good alternative.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Moving on.
So moving on to the sewer utility, we have 18 projects in the 25-26 CIP. Those total over $12 million. We have 13 projects currently either in development or under construction. The sewer system on Mercer Island is somewhat unique in that we have not only over 100 miles of sewer mains, we have a series of 17 pump stations and 13 miles of sewer line that runs around the perimeter of the lake. There's not many communities that have lake-line sewers. Next slide. So the Lake Line Reach 1 capacity improvement. This project is just getting started with consultant selection. The purpose of this project is to evaluate what we call Reach 1. That's 2.5 miles of sewer line on the east side of the island, as shown in this upper photo. And that includes 4 pump stations that send that sewage down to the South Mercer pump station. That reach was built in the mid-1960s. Its access is very challenging. We don't know a lot about the condition of that pipe. So the main thrust of this project is to evaluate that 2.5 miles of pipe. What's its condition? Where is it located? What does it need as far as repair or restoration? That is going to take a couple years to get that design work done. We want to start that late this year into next year.
I'm going to interject real quick just to explain things a little bit further. So perhaps for listeners at home, perhaps some council members, so our sewer system, imagine Island Crestway is the spine of the island. So everything that's the middle of the island, everything from the spine of the island runs outwards towards the lake and then into a sewer line that's in Lake Washington. Councilmember Weinberg, you asked about the water line and manholes earlier in the council matrix. The manholes are found on sewer systems so you can access the sewer system at different points along the way. Your lake line does not have manholes. There are no manholes out there in the middle of the lake. So the reason we don't know the current condition of this pipe is because we can't access it. So I'll draw your attention to the picture here you see, and that's a barge. And on that barge, it's hard to decipher, but there is a vac truck sitting on the back of that barge. That is to access the pump stations to help clean the line out, 200, plus or minus 200 feet each direction of a pump station, of those 17 pump stations. In between that is that area of unknown. So this project in particular, you're gonna hear about it at the next council meeting, is to start doing some investigation work to help us understand what's in front of us for the sewer system, in particular the lake line, locating it, figuring out how to get into it, and figure out how to prioritize its replacement. So this is just the beginning of some of that work that you're seeing. It is absolutely unique to Mercer Island. We are one of the very few communities. Bellevue has a small portion of the lake line. Lake Oswego has a lake line, but Lake Oswego actually has manhole access along their pipe. So this is going to be, call it cutting edge, front of the line type of work that we're looking at. And there's no history book or textbook on how to do it. We're figuring it out as we go. So just words of what's coming. It's exciting. It's a little bit unnerving as well because there's some unknowns associated, but it's important work that we are desperately in need of.
Okay. Council Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Jason, when you said that there's not a lot known, is that like a record keeping from when it was installed, or is this like a physical, hey, we just don't know what is going on out there?
A little bit of both. So with all of our assets in the public works system that, are on land, it's tied to our asset management system. So these crew members are out rehabilitating manholes. They're out there in pump stations fixing pumps. You'll see some pictures of pumps here in the next couple slides. We're documenting all that work as we're touching it, looking at it, feeling it. We don't have that same knowledge base because we can't access this lake line, right? So we know what the condition is plus or minus 200 feet of each pump station, but not the stuff in between. So that's what's the unknown. That's what we have to go figure out what it is.
And is there a universe where we install manholes on the lake line?
So there is a way to install manholes on the lake line. So I'm going to date myself here, 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in that time frame, we actually had an emergency repair we had to perform on the lake line. And that work included installing a manhole, and there's an access hatch that we allowed to get to it. We actually had to locate the lake line, figure out where the plug was, and actually cut a section of the lake line out and repair it. And that took better part of 9 months to permit just for that work. So a lot of that work here is to plan the future work, future reinvestment. The permitting is going to be extensive associated with it. So there is a way to do that. We've proven it. How many, how far apart are the manholes, what's the distance, we don't know yet. That's the work that we have to determine as well.
That's interesting, thanks.
Yeah, it's very fascinating for sure.
Councilmember Becker.
Yeah, you've got Lakeland Reach 1 up here. I'm just curious, this is through 28. I mean, what's the plan for reaches 2, 3, 4? And I can't tell if there's a 5 on this picture or not.
There are 4, so Reach 3 was replaced in 2010 timeframe, if not mistaken. So we've done that reach. So that's good news. The other reaches, Reach 1 is the one that we have the highest level of concern. We actually have some known deficiencies at the pump stations that we'll talk about next week. We have some known overflows, historic overflows at pump station 23 that we have to address. So that's the priority. Certainly, a larger body of work is to locate the lake line all around the entire island, and that's on our work plan. And so that'll be the first snapshot for Reach 2 and Reach 3. But the good news is we've done one reach. I should say we've done Reach 3. The other reaches are still to be determined, but Reach 1's our priority for now.
Okay, thank you.
And it's because of age, the age it was installed, and the type of pipe it is.
Okay. Councilmember Reynolds.
Recognizing this stuff was put in long before you started working here and long before you were born, probably. Knowing what you know now and how difficult this is to maintain, if you were doing this today, would you put in a lake line, or would you put the pipes in along the Mercers with pumps going up to send the sewage up that way?
I would not put something that's inaccessible if I was doing it over again. I would make sure it's accessible. The other piece is I'm not sure in today's permitting world they'd actually allow us to do this. Again, those are unknowns enough to answer. I have to answer, we have existing infrastructure, we're going to solve the problem. But yeah, if I could do it over again, if I could design it differently, I would have designed it differently.
Is there any world or any scenario where it would be worth considering putting in a new line that is not in the lake?
Could you do it? Yes. The thing about public works that I learned is anything can be engineered. It's a matter of how much money you want to spend to do it. And I would say that it would be
Repairing is still more cost effective
yeah,
than.
it would be significantly cost prohibitive for us to go that route at this point in time. Is this something that someone should consider 50 years from now? Maybe, but again, at this point in time, it's more effective for us to go this route, more cost effective.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, could you also mention how we're tied into King County wastewater? Like, we can't just do this by ourselves. It's a partnership thing.
Absolutely. So actually the work that Walsh Construction is doing, that's on behalf of King County, that's actually work on their lake line. So as Clint, you actually see here the south pump station. So there's 2 locations on the island that we convey our sewage to, and that is on the north end, just north of the bridge, as well as here at the south pump station. I believe actually last council meeting, council approved the closeout for one of the projects where we're actually transferring the pump station down here at the Luther Burbank Park. King County did a bunch of upgrades to it because they share that pump station with us. And so there are 2 pump stations that we pump all of our sewage to, and then it goes, when they get to those pump stations, it's now considered a King County facility, and that's where it goes to the city lock-in system for disposal. So 2 pump stations on the east side of the island, 1 north, 1 south. But absolutely a partner. They are one of the unique agencies that have a lake line, right? It's a different type of lake line than we have, but nonetheless lake line.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay, next slide.
Oops, sorry. Which side were we on?
We need to be on the sewer plan.
Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry about that.
General sewer plan and hydraulic model. So this is a project to update our long-term sewer plan. And for the first time, we're going to do a hydraulic model of the island's sewer system to see what sort of flows we have and what sort of capacity we have. It's been many decades since the system was designed, and the flows are certainly different today than they were in the 1960s when that lake line was designed. So we're currently underway developing scope of that project. The planning of that's going to happen late this year, early next year, and probably run into 2028. And future phases are going to depend on what that study finds. This photo we included, this is an interesting look at building a sewer manhole. You can see that these guys are probably about 10 or 15 feet deep in a trench box. A lot of our sewer system is 8 to 15 feet deep. When you see the sewer manholes in the middle of the street, those are fairly deep down to the sewer pipes. Next project, or next slide, sorry. The SCADA equipment replacement. This is an important upgrade to our sewer system. This stands for supervisory, I even had to write it down to remember it. Supervisory control and data acquisition. This is a computer system that controls the pump stations for this, that regulates how these different sewer pump stations operate and push that sewage down to the south end of the island in that prior map, or to the north end of the island. This involved installing monitoring and control systems in 17 sewer pump stations. We have 1 pump station left to do. That's pump station 11. The reason that pump station is lagging behind the others, that station is getting rebuilt as part of this King County North Mercer Ennetai force main project that is under construction right now. I believe that they recently completed testing on the pump station 11 operations, but it's going to be a couple of months until the SCADA equipment gets installed in that pump station 11. As you can see in this picture, access to our pump stations, not only is the lake line difficult, but some of our pump stations are difficult to get to. Here I think they had to hand carry a lot of this stuff through a yard to get it to the pump station. Next slide. Pump Station 20, this is at the south end of the island. This is going to be our first of multiple sewer pump stations that are going to get modernized and upgraded with likely new pumps, new electrical components, probably refitting the wet wells, because as with our lake line that is built in the 1960s, these pump stations date to the 1960s as well. We did, a couple of years ago, we did a condition assessment of the different pump stations. Pump station 20 rose to the top of the list as the one that needed work the most. That design is about 90% complete. We hope to move to construction on that project in 2026. This is a picture of, I believe this is in pump station 20, but this is typical of most of our pump stations. This is probably 15 to 20 feet below grade. You can see that these guys are standing next to three pumps. You can see the 3 motors are up above their head. The pumps are a little bit lower. You can see 3 valves. This is what we call the dry well. The wet well is likely on the other side of this wall. So these pumps run on different duty cycles, so they wear evenly, but these pumps are taking sewage out of the wet well in the next room over and pushing it down to the next pump station. And then when it gets to the next pump station, that pump station moves it further, and it works its way down. In that previous slide, it works its way down Reach 1 to the South Mercer pump station. That was the end of sewer. Did we have any other comments on that?
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Just curious, I think I'm realizing I should have been a civil engineer, because I'm like, this stuff is pretty cool. Although I have no qualifications for it. The pumps that are there, it looked like there were 3 in that room, is that correct?
Correct.
Are you saying that only one runs at a time, or?
Correct. And if that one can't pump the wet well down fast enough, a second one will come online and join and pump. I think it's pretty rare that the third one comes on, but in any given week, all 3 of those pumps run. They trade off on which one is running in the primary position and which one is the backup and which one's resting.
Okay, that makes sense. And are they alarmed or monitored somehow? So if one fails, will you know?
Yes, that is what that SCADA system does for us. It monitors all of that. If a pump fails to start, it will send an alarm to the maintenance shop. It will send an alarm to whoever is on call, and they can respond to those alarms remotely.
So if things work as they should, we'll never have a situation where something fails, we don't know, and sewage starts backing up into people's homes or things like that, right?
Ideally, the SCADA system tells us what's happening, and our guys are able to react to that in real time and minimize whatever that emergency or alarm is.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. All right.
So
I
moving
have a
on.
question.
Councilmember Anderl.
Yeah, so I think I heard this correctly, that there are 17 sewer pump stations, but I'm hearing numbers designating the pump stations that go above 17. Have there been consolidations over the years, or how does that work?
Good question. There are 17 pump stations. The numbering, years ago, there used to be more pump stations or flush stations around the island. They have been consolidated or modified in years, and so in terms of conveying sewage around the island, there's 17 pump stations, 17 active pump stations now. The terminology around the pump stations versus flush stations has changed over the years in the sewer industry, and so the numbering is based off an old model, but we do have 17 pump stations that convey sewage around the island.
Okay, thanks.
So moving on to stormwater. 16 stormwater projects in the biennium, totaling about $4.2 million. We've completed one project. We have several others under design. Some of those that are under design are also in the permitting stage. We manage about 88 miles of storm pipes, 16 miles of ditches, and as you can see, there are over 5,500 catch basins. The storm project that we've recently completed is Subbasin 23.2. This is, I think, in about the 4,300 block of West Mercer Way. This project stabilized 300 feet of open water course that had been deeply incised. It was a very deep, narrow channel that had been eroded, and this was restored with natural materials, logs, large rocks. To fill that in, that will bring the flow line of that channel up out of the depth that it eroded to. The area is also going to get replanted, and I think that replanting is scheduled for October and November. Next slide. These two projects are under design, Basin 22 and 23. I'm sorry, 25. These are kind of similar to the one that we just completed. It's about 350 feet of eroded water course that we're going to restore and stabilize. This picture is showing you kind of what happens in a rainstorm in these water courses. The flows come up and it gets erosive, and those channels are always getting a little bit deeper with every winter. These projects, we're hoping to get those into construction in 2026. We're awaiting permitting from Fish and Wildlife. Next slide. The street-related stormwater drainage improvements program is geared to making minor improvements in a neighborhood, primarily ahead of roadway paving. If we're going to repave a neighborhood, then that's a great time to install some pipes that might require cutting the street. So this year we did a couple of minor improvements on 66th Avenue and 71st Avenue up on First Hill in advance of repaving those streets back in July. Next slide. So storm was kind of short. Any questions on that one?
No takers there.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to water, and this is a long one because we have the most projects of these categories is happening in the water system. We're making a large investment. We have 29 projects, over $38 million. We've received $1.2 million from the state capital budget to go towards the water supply pipeline. We've completed 6 of these projects, and we have not only a lot of miles of water main, 120 miles. We have over 7,000 water meters. We have 2 reservoir tanks, 2 pump stations, over 80 PRVs. We'll touch on some of these as we go through. Next slide. North and south reservoir tank improvements. This project has been going on for almost 4 years. I think the budget on this is $7 to $8 million. This project recoated the interior and exterior of both tanks. In the top photo, you can see some of the other improvements that were included. We did new stairwells and new railings. Previously, the way that you accessed the top of the tank is you had to go up a vertical ladder that had a safety cage around it, which meant that any tools you needed had to be hoisted up on a rope. Now you can carry things up to the roof much easier. Inside the tank on this lower photo, this is before. This is the old coating, and I think the previous coatings were done in about year 2000. You can see the roof had a little bit of rust coming through the coating. The interior of these tanks now, this is all bright white, brand new coating. And these coatings are expected to last for 25 years. So it was, the tanks were last coated inside and outside, again, in about 2000. Now we're doing it in 2025. So this will be another 25 years until this project is done again. Deputy Mayor, good question.
Yeah, this project has been going on the whole time I've been in council, so I'm not sure what the answer to this question is. But how often in the sort of interim 25-year period do you ever have to take the water level all the way out or down and clean it? Or what is the maintenance cycle on that?
Yes, the answer is yes, we do. I don't know what the interval is off the top of my head. We can get back to you on the interval, but yes, there are times we run the water all the way out and we do maintenance on the tank. I can get back to you on the interval. I'll also say, these tanks were just recoated, but there's a warranty piece to it. So actually next spring, we'll have a drawdown period where we actually draw the first tank down, re-inspect it to make sure the warranty is still valid. So that's part of our routine work that we do. We usually do it in early spring before demand levels pick up, and the water supplies are high. So that's something that we do as part of our annual program, and obviously tied to this capital program too. So the first tank will be next year, and then the second tank will be behind it as well.
And how long is the warranty then?
I have to get back to you on what the actual warranty
Okay.
number is, but we can get back to you on the warranty and the interval.
All right, thank you.
One of the reasons this project took so long to construct is that we could only work on one reservoir at a time. And it was an awful lot of blasting to remove the interior coatings. We could only work inside one reservoir during the low demand season, which is winter. Then in the summer, when the weather improved, that's when most of the exterior work was happening. Next slide. Between the two reservoir tanks at the reservoir site is a building that houses our booster pumps. This is a picture of the 5 main booster pumps. All 5 of these have been replaced. In this picture, you can see 4 that are the same, and in the foreground is one of the original 5 that it hadn't been replaced yet when this photo was taken. We've changed from the old pumps were submersible to now we have the new pumps are above ground, they're dry. The motors are on top. The old style, the motor was at the bottom of the wet well, so they're very difficult to work on. In addition to replacing these 5 pumps, we added 2 additional jockey pumps, which, Kelly, if you go back a couple of slides to the title slide of this, you can see the jockey pumps. Go back one more.
There you go.
So these are the 2 new jockey pumps. You can see the black motors are above them. These sit above ground inside the booster pump building. During low flows or low demand, these 2 pumps are boosting the pressure at the reservoir. When we get into high demand period, one of those larger pumps will kick on, and then maybe a second large pump will kick on. By installing these 2 little jockey pumps, as they have been named, this is much more efficient. It uses less energy. These can keep up with that low demand much more efficiently than running those large ones. Another project that we recently did was replacing the emergency standby generator at the reservoir. The old 1975 generator was actually inside the building. It occupied the space where those jockey pumps are that we just talked about in that previous photo. So we couldn't do the jockey pump installation until we got this generator online, so that then we could remove the old one out of the building. This new unit is 500 kilowatts. This will run the entire reservoir station. It will also run the emergency well which you can see the roof of that in the background of this picture. Along with replacing the generator itself, all of the conduit and wiring from this into the building is new. All of the circuitry in the building is new, all the transfer switches. So the reservoir building has not only a new generator, but essentially all new electrical circuitry inside. This was completed earlier this spring, and you guys will probably see a closeout agenda bill for this coming this next spring. Water meter replacements. We have over 7,500 new digital water meters installed, and you're probably wondering, well, why is there a picture of a bucket truck? To read all of those 7,500 meters, we need 6 antennas to pick up their signals. 4 of those antennas are in place and operational. We still have 2 more to finish. And I believe, Jason, do you know exactly when those 2 antennas get finished?
I'll look to Elaine. I know when one of them is this one that we're still working on a agreement with another agency, but Elaine, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so we have Elaine Summergren, Deputy Public Works Director. We have one new base station going up at the south end near West Mercer and East Mercer Way where they connect. That's going to be going up in the next couple months. The very last one is one that's going to be going on a lumen pole, which has a fairly long lead time. So we're hoping to get that done in the next 6 months or so. And the good news is that even with the 4 that are up right now, we are capturing almost all of the meters on the island. This is about building redundancy in the system. So we're able to pick up, I believe it's somewhere around between 93 and 95% of meters currently.
And I'll just add to the customer portal set to come online in January of 2026, which will be exciting, and customers will be able to see their hour-by-hour water demand along the way as well with that portal. Long time coming.
Can I just say congratulations? I think this is before I was on council, and for as long as I've been here, we've been talking about this. So well done.
Okay, next slide. Main replacements. This is an ongoing program. Our current project that we are involved in now is replacing about 6,000 feet of water mains, over 100 water services, 16 fire hydrants, a new pressure reducing valve station. That project is about 3/4 of the way done, and that's probably going to finish construction here in January or February. Next slide. Now, you may recall that we created a new water main replacement program recently to address the asbestos cement pipes in our system, so-called AC water mains. We just this summer wrapped up the first of those projects, replacing of the approximate 5 miles of AC pipe in our system. This last summer, we replaced about 1 mile of that. So we have about 4 miles of AC left. Our goal is to replace that remaining 4 miles by 2030. This picture that I included here is why we are replacing AC pipe. This is on Greenbrier Lane a couple of years ago. Greenbrier was one of these that just got replaced here this year. If you look at the bottom of this picture, that's the AC water main, that light gray colored pipe. When AC pipe breaks, it tends to blow apart so that you have to replace a section of it. That's this blue plastic pipe. Because new pipe is typically a different size than the old AC pipe, these yellow couplers are adapters to go from the size of the AC to the size of this new plastic. What's also interesting about this picture is if you see those wires to the left of the water line, that's direct bury power. So sometimes water mains are very challenging to fix when they break, and this picture was taken at night. So, this is our motivation to get AC pipes out of our system, is there tend to be some of the oldest pipes dating back to the mid-50s. So you can do the math there. These are really old. Again, our goal is to get them out of our system by 2030. Next slide. Our water system has a network of pressure-reducing valve stations. Because we have a lot of elevation change from where the reservoirs are down to the homes at the lake, our water system goes through a series of pressure zones. These PRV stations help step down that pressure. As water changes in elevation, it picks up pressure. These step it down. This photo is of a brand-new PRV that's just been calibrated today, in fact. This is the last bit of one of our water main projects from this summer, was to calibrate this PRV and get it online. The pressure-reducing valve is that blue circular device in the center of the vault. Because we have 80 of these, it's going to take us a while to work through all of these. So this program is going to probably take us 20 years. We did the first round started in 24. We finished it in the spring, summer of 25. That replaced 4 of these. We're picking up about one additional one with each water main that we do. These sometimes are very challenging to replace because we may not have room to put a new vault next to the existing vault. In this particular case of where this photograph is taken, we had to remove the old one, the complete station, all the piping and the vault, and put the new vault in the same location. So to do that, we had to rig up a bypass temporarily above ground. So some of these PRV replacements are a little tricky, but we have, as I say, the first round is done. We are in design of the second phase. We hope to go to construction with that next group of PRVs next spring. Next slide. The water supply pipeline, you're going to hear more about this project in a few minutes, but this is going to replace the SPU pipeline that brings water from Bellevue up to our water reservoir. As you can see on this map, it's the yellow and red line is the current SPU line. The orange along Southeast 36th and Gallagher Hill is going to be our new 5,000 feet of city-owned water supply pipeline. We are currently at about 60% design. Our goal is to get that design complete by spring of 26. We want to start construction on that in the spring of 26. It's probably going to be about 12 months of water work, and then after that, we're going to do probably 8 months of road improvements of Southeast 36th and Gallagher and Southeast 40th. Next slide. As part of wrapping up all of the different reservoir improvements, one of the last things we're going to do is some security improvements. We want to upgrade the entry gate. We want to add cameras not only around the site but in the building. We're going to do some better site lighting, and we're going to upgrade the perimeter fencing. That is currently in kind of the early design stages. We're hoping to get permitting in the spring and construct that starting next summer. Next slide. This is the last project, by the way. Water system plans. We are required to update our water system plan every 10 years, and those are due next summer. So we've begun work on updating the city's water system plan. There's also a risk and resilience assessment and an emergency response plan. Those are underway with a engineering consultant, and we should be able to meet that June deadline for those plans. Any questions on the water projects?
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Clint, on the fencing, you said it is to be compliant with what?
I don't have an answer for that.
Department of Health. So we do Department of Health comes out and does an audit of our water system, our infrastructure. So it's a Department of Health requirement. So they actually, along the way as part of their audit, they provide some recommendations on, improvements. So I was actually at a note here based off the public comment tonight. That didn't come up in our last DOH in terms of protecting the reservoir, or the generator, excuse me, or the fuel tank. That doesn't mean it's not something we should look at in the future. Short-term piece I'll take care of is we have an arborist that works for our parks and right-of-way team, and so I'll have him go out, and he's fully educated and certified to do tree risk assessments, so we'll make sure those trees around that reservoir are assessed and monitored in the meantime, and we'll follow up with DOH in terms of the requirements for any further protection that's needed for that generator and fuel tank. But to your question, Councilmember Rosenbaum, or Deputy Mayor, it's a DOH inspection that's performed on a, I want to say it's 3 years? Every 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, basis, and so that's where it comes from.
So it's like a height question for the fence then?
Security factor. So is your site secure?
Okay.
Every 5 years, excuse me. Thank you, Elaine.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. Does that wrap that AB up?
Thank you for your patience. I know that was a lot of projects to go through, but honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We call these our greatest hits because these are the ones that we get a lot of questions on from the public, about progress. All of these projects have project pages or Let's Talk pages, and they are all up to date if folks want to learn more. I would say we are able to move this work forward at the rate that we are because of our coordination, not only between CIP, but with operations. It does take a village, and we are making significant progress. So again, thank you for your time tonight.
Can I just brag about the map that was in the agenda bill? Shout out to GIS and IT, that's cool to just see it all in one place.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I think Craig and I might be going back to school for a civil engineering degree. I think this stuff is really interesting, but I think there's a tremendous amount of complexity that goes into these projects, and I think the team deserves a lot of credit for just keeping all these things on track. A lot of these things you don't hear about and you don't think about until something goes wrong, and we certainly had a fair share of water challenges. But I just want to say thanks. I think it's incredible. It's great to see all this come together and how you coordinate everything.
Okay, thank you. So that gets us probably the same team. Our last item, regular business, is AB 6795, which is the water supply pipeline project update.
So Kelly's going to pull up the presentation. I'll go quickly. This is an update. We're not going to pass it back and forth. You're just going to hear me go through it. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. Important project in front of us. That's our supply pipeline project update. So just a refresher in case you need any memory jolts. Remember, we had 2 water emergencies. The last one was where we actually had a leak on the SPU supply line over on Southeast 40th. Kelly, if you can go ahead and skip to that map. Sorry, there's the agenda. We'll just go through it real quick. The next line. So this is the current supply pathway from SPU. So as you see on the map, you've seen this map before. The pink is the SPU-owned pipe. The blue is the city-owned pipe. That was that emergency bypass, that 16-inch line that we actually ran water to the reservoir. And then the green is the SPU pathway to the Shorewood system. So we are looking to replace primarily that section, that 24-inch pipe on Southeast 40th with a new alignment. So with that, Kelly, next slide. Again, the goals of the project, new ownership and control with the city's responsibility. This is a generational investment that's going to improve our resiliency and reliability. It's going to reduce those risks in those vulnerable areas I talked about. As Clint mentioned earlier, the water main is going to be the first body of work, and then there's going to be a number of bike, ped, and transportation improvements that are going to take place after the fact. We are going to take over ownership of some of the existing SPU reaches. So Reach 4 will be transferred to the city ownership. Reach 3, which is currently the Reach 4 will be a city transferred asset. Reach 3 is currently the Shorewood reach. That will be transferred to the city, and then we will provide a new pathway for Shorewood to receive water from the city off our existing distribution system. And all along the way, we've talked about AC pipe a number of times. Clint talked about tonight. We're actually going to be replacing some of the AC pipe as part of this project in a couple different segments. So all good stuff. As you can see here in this map, that green line following Gallagher, Southeast 36 and Gallagher, is the new proposed alignment. Next slide. I just referenced the new service to Shorewood. So Shorewood used to be serviced directly from SPU. The design team has worked 2 new connection points. Again, this is off the city's distribution system. So Shorewood will become a customer of the city when this is all said and done. And then we're actually going to eliminate a segment of AC pipe along the way as part of that process. So good stuff there. Our water modeling has been complete. We can take on Shorewood without impact to our water model, so that's good. All that engineering is taking place right now. I'll also take a moment just to remind the council that we are using a construction alternative process in this project where we actually brought the design team on early, and then we actually have the contractor, Scarcella Construction, is actually at the design table with our project team and the engineering team going through the rest of the design project, and they've actually found a number of efficiencies, and we'll talk about some of those things here in the next couple slides, but very advantageous to the city to get them at the table early on to help work through a complicated project. Next slide. So the water elements, again, we're going to install over 5,000 lineal feet of new 24-inch ductile pipe. This will be earthquake resistant, so that's good. We're going to replace over 1,500 feet of AC main that was on Gallagher Hill. That was currently planned for construction and got delayed by a year just to line up with this construction project, but that was in that original time frame that Clint talked about early on. We're going to replace the PRV, which you saw earlier. We're going to reconnect Shorewood to the city system, and then part of the work will be relocating SPU's meter a little bit closer to the shoreline, where there's some better pipe conditions as well. It'll be 1 meter from SPU, 1 master meter that will feed the city, but this will be one connection point versus right now there's 2. And then we'll be outsizing another segment of pipe near the reservoir. Lisa, I see you have a question before I move on.
Yeah, thanks. Just for clarification, will Shorewood still be responsible for water delivery on its own property and metering and charging its own customers?
Yes, absolutely. So they will be everything. So these 2 new points will be new meter locations for the city. Everything beyond that point will be the Shorewood apartment complex's responsibility. So all their existing infrastructure behind that meter, just like any other residential customer, will be their responsibility. So yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next slide. Roadway improvements. So water work gets done, fantastic, and then we shift to the road work. That's going to improve just about a mile of arterial roadway. As you can see, the pathway is where the pipe's going to be. We're also looking at curbs, sidewalks, bike lanes, improved pedestrian lighting, working with the school district in terms of that connection point to and from the schools. This is a traveled area. And then these projects are currently in the TIP. Again, the capital team delayed the construction of that work to align itself with the water project so that we're not doing things twice. All good stuff there. Next slide. So we are currently at the 60% design phase. What does that mean? Like I said, the design team, the construction team is at the table together working through this. We are at 60% design, finalizing those pipe alignments. You saw in the matrix today, some of those considerations include the relationship to the other utilities, the space allowance within the right-of-way, the coordination with WashDOT in terms of the permit requirements. All those things are factors in those final pipe alignments. We're working on finalizing those connection points to Shorewood. We'll be reaching out to Shorewood, talking through what that means in terms of the transfer. The traffic impacts are something that's being discussed heavily right now at the project team level. There are some, obviously, I just want to be frank, staff know that that area of the island has been significantly impacted over the last couple of years with the construction from perhaps the King County project and some other things. And so we're mindful of that. We're trying to work through how we minimize those impacts because it is in the general similar vicinity. And so we're working through what those construction impacts look like, how we're to minimize them, and what things we can do to not only minimize the construction impacts, but also perhaps improve our cost efficiency in the construction schedule. So we'll come back to you all with more information on that. We'll be working with the utility board in terms of those impacts along the way, but something that's being discussed heavily at the construction project management team level. And then finally, when do we activate the new supply line, right? What's that timing for the SPU negotiation in terms of transferring of the assets? When do we transfer the water actually coming over? And then what's the financial impact of those asset transfers, the contract impact? Those will be something that'll be coming back next year to the council as well for discussion. This next slide. So here's our time frame. We are currently finishing up the design work. We anticipate being complete in February of 2026, which is not very far away. Halloween is just around the corner. In case you haven't gotten your thrift shop attire, or your Halloween attire, make sure you get to the thrift shop. We look to have the water improvements constructed in February of 2026 to April of 2027. It's a little bit of a longer lead time, and that's because we're going to try and minimize or do the bulk of the construction and minimize our impact to school traffic and the school schedule. So we'll try and do the bulk of the work in the summer months that have the most impact to those schools. Same thing when we get to the roadway improvements. So again, a little bit longer time frame for construction than perhaps you might see, but it's phased to align itself a bit with the minimizing those impacts to the school and obviously the traffic volumes in that corridor. And then we look to be substantially complete by the December of 2027. So moving right along. Next slide. Cost estimate. So you saw on the agenda bill at this 60% phase, our estimated water cost is 12.5 to 13.5. I say the water cost because the PED improvements, the road improvements are still being fine-tuned. Some other things are still in place. So this is just an early estimate at 60% design. The engineer estimate will be further refined as we go along the way, and that'll be provided to the council as an update in our Q1 2026 update. But right now, we're at 12.5 to 13.5 for the water portion of this project. That includes both the supply line as well as the AC main replacement. So again, there's two projects wrapped into one there. And then a good reminder that the state legislature has approved 1.2 mil in outside funding for this project. So great news for us in that. Next slide. Next steps. So we're going to continue our design and development. We're going to finalize that construction sequencing. We're going to work with the utility board along the way. I will be back to council in Q1 2026 with an update. And then we're in ongoing contract negotiations with SPU regarding the transfer of the assets and that timing of when water is turned from their system to our system along the way, and working with Shorewood, obviously. Next slide. Questions?
Okay, Councilman Reynolds.
Very impressive presentation. One thing that was particularly noteworthy to me was the success your team has had with getting grant money. Can you just kind of educate us a little bit on what that process is like? Do you have a dedicated grant writer on staff? Is it just the duty just shared among the staff? How does it work?
I will say, well, Kelly and Shelby can help me answer. I will say our really good grant writer was Paul West, and he retired earlier this year. So we are looking to fill that void. But I mean, in short, it's a hat that's worn by multiple people, and it's actually shared across the organization. So a lot of times grants will come up out of the city manager's office, the finance office, and they're sharing information with us. Hey, you should look at this, right? And so it's that constant communication and collaboration across the departments to identify those different grant sources. And sometimes they find things that we don't know about. But in terms of the actual application, it's shared by many different people. Some of us have a really strong, knowledge base about the specific project, and some people are better writers, and some people are better presenters. And so we sort of share those duties and figure out what the best path forward is and identify who can participate in. But it's certainly a process, and there's no perfect scenario how it works out, but the team is really good at it. So
It's always struck me as it's a skill, right?
yes.
People have to learn. Would it be worth considering adding a full-time professional who does only that, is specialized, like a position for itself?
I'm going to defer to the city manager. My take on that is I think right now the way it's working is working for us. We are very good about the money that we're going out and targeting and going after. And I mean, we have our bumps and lumps along the way. We definitely have some projects that don't score very well, and we're trying to learn from those. I will say probably the best piece in this whole puzzle has been having shovel-ready, design-ready projects. As Kelly mentioned earlier, that goes a long ways with those grant review committees, knowing that you actually have a project that you haven't just thought about and made up out of thin air, but you actually have put time and resources into working through the process. That has helped us. So in terms of what council action can be done, continue to, I know as you see some of these projects, oh man, we have 28 projects, only 6 are complete, but a lot of that is the planning, design, and permitting phase. Getting through those is actually the biggest hurdle. thinking through like the Luther Burbank projects, the Clark and Groveland that are coming, Dean's in particular, those are complex projects that are going to require time, engineering services to get us to that point where we can go after those grants. And so I think that's probably more useful to us, is making sure we're following through on those design timelines than actually having a dedicated staff person. But that's my take. I'll defer to the city manager if she has a different take.
No, I would not be recommending adding a full-time grant manager, to be candid. I think our team does a really good job for the size of the city we have. If at some point the grant applications exceed our capacity, we would contract for somebody to come in and help on a limited basis. But thank you for bringing it up, because what I will say is it's a lot of work. But I think we've got it dialed in pretty well right now. We know what grants, we pursue the grants where we're going to be successful, and we pass on the ones where we're not.
At some point, it might be worth kind of tabulating the total amount you collect and make sure that city's aware of it, the community, because it's many millions. It's impressive.
It is millions.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Luther itself was what, 4.8 mil?
Yeah.
Just that one project.
Well, you know, Craig, I don't want you to think that you don't deserve some portion of the credit for this. The city council hired a lobbyist. We spent the last 4 years in Olympia, Dave and I, and Jesse and team, asking for money. We put our capital requests into the state budget year after year after year. I think this 1.5 is the $1.5 million that we asked for, right? So this is not just sitting down and writing grants. This is going to Olympia and saying, look, can we have some of that money that we sent down to you and put it to work in our community? So it does take a village, and you had part of it, so. All right, anything else? Councilmember Weinberg.
So you'd mentioned that the water supply line is a generational project. I wanted to open that box a little bit, because what we're working on right now, I presume, is not a usual workload. This is a much larger than usual workload. Can you give us kind of a bigger perspective of like why we have this wave of work right now, and when we can expect, you know, how many generations in the future we can expect the next one?
Well, so the reason we're here is a lot of our infrastructure was installed at the same time in the late 50s and 60s, and it's all coming of age. Usually an asset in the water and sewer world in particular is average useful life is 50 to 75 years, so we're right smack dab in that. I will say we also have some unique characteristics about our infrastructure. You heard me talk about the sewer system. We are completely relying upon SPU in terms of delivering water to us. And then the topography of the island is challenging. Like it is in terms of our stormwater work and things like that. So in terms of reinvestment needs, these are once in a lifetime generational improvements. The workload that's in front of your capital team has been tailored to the team that you have in front of you. They are working like crazy. We've had some staff vacancies where we've had to adjust along the way. And to be honest, like the stormwater presentation night's a little bit, in terms of the projects being completed, it's a little bit less than others, because that's the one that it's smaller dollar amounts, smaller projects that usually require more permitting time associated with it. So that's the one that we can keep sort of churning in the background while we continue to focus on the other priority projects. But these are once in a generation lifetime improvements. They are 50, 75, hopefully 100 years, hopefully with a good maintenance plan in place for these assets, creating manholes so that we can actually maintain and collect data. Again, data drives decisions. We replaced our maintenance management system or asset management system in 2015. That data is being used to leverage that future decision making. So future public works directors, engineers, project team can use that data to hopefully maximize the lifespan of this infrastructure beyond that anticipated 50 to 75 year lifespan.
And by the way, great work, everybody. This is a lot of, this is stuff that we can tell our grandkids about, right? That is still working 3 generations later.
Councilmember Weicker.
And I want to give you a chance to brag a little more for all the work your team is doing, given the economic headwinds we've had in the last year or two. Like this, you have a plan, and then you have the reality, and then you have the bids come in, and like, could you just speak a little bit to like everything you're doing on top of everything you're dealing with?
Well, yeah, so it takes a village. It's not just this team, it's the finance team, Matt Morick, Ben Schumacher, Lawan Tuttle, the city manager's office. I will tell you, your reference on bids coming in higher, like we are constantly right now juggling, reallocating dollars. Okay, this budget came in, did it come in under? Okay, great, we've got $50,000 here that we can plug into where we have this other project coming down the road, and we get to the council and say, hey, we're looking for this appropriation to do this body of work. So it is a constant juggling act right now. it's sort of a fun puzzle. If you like puzzles, it's enjoyable. It is. It's a lot of work, but it's a challenge, right? And it's not just unique to us. It's consistent across the region. You're seeing rate increases from other utilities as well. And so we're working what we can, the best we can, to mitigate those impacts. And as we go into that planning exercise for the next biennium, that's part of our CIP planning work that we do up front. Is let's make sure we refine these numbers a little bit further so that we can plan accordingly for the work. But it is something that we have seen increases in costs lately. I will say the plug goes to the water supply line, though. We've done an alternative service delivery for this project, and I think we're seeing the impacts to help sort of reduce those costs. And I don't want to get out in front of us a bit, but we are seeing perhaps engineer estimates that lower now than what I perhaps would have thought early on. Fingers crossed it stays that way, but we are definitely seeing some benefits to having a contractor at the table early on in the design process to help. Again, it's minimizing those construction costs, the overhead, the mobilization fees, the timing of things, working with the contractor to help with those things early on to help save those costs down the road. So we're trying to be strategic in how we do it. It's a little bit of everything and how we get there, but constant communication and collaboration, not only with this team here, and they're fantastic, but also with our fantastic finance team in the city manager's office and the city attorney's office as well. He's a big part of it as well.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. All right. I will thank you, and we'll move on to other business and planning schedule, and welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. No updates from me on the planning
Okay.
schedule.
Any council member absences to report? Councilmember Reynolds?
I think I suggested this or mentioned this last meeting, but I will miss the next meeting.
Okay. We will excuse you. Council member reports. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Nothing to report.
I have nothing to report. Councilmember Weicker. Nothing to report. Councilmember Weinberg.
Yep, next monthly open brunch will be 12 p.m. on Sunday, November 16th at the Alistair Restaurant. The address, of course, is 7650 Southeast 27th Street. As always, all are welcome, and it's an open agenda. All I ask is that everybody please show their respect to the chef by ordering some food and or beverage, and let me know if you're coming so I can reserve a large enough table.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, a couple of things. Notably, at the Parks meeting last night, very poorly timed with the Mariners game, but we reviewed the Clark and Groveland infrastructure plan as it stands now and some of the options on the table. Great discussion, lots of issues discussed. A few things we reached consensus on, I think, are close consensus. Strong preference for pebbles rather than sand. Some general wariness of the current plan to de-emphasize swimming at Clark Beach, but I think some understanding it will still be allowed, so that's okay. Broad consensus and support for ADA access being part of the design. Some wariness about moving or decommissioning of the volleyball courts just because they're so important to youth in the community. A lot of discussion on grass versus concrete terracing. Seemed to be a preference for grass. And most notably for me, we talked about the online survey they're doing where they have a little over 100 responses so far, and not a single response from anybody under age 20, which I think is unfortunate. So if you know anybody that's a kid or has a kid, encourage them to get out on Let's Talk and take that survey. And then the other thing I was going to quickly mention, took with Councilmember Becker, and maybe some others of you did it separately, we did a tour of the boiler building. That is a really cool place. I think it's going to be a tremendous asset to the city when it's fully commissioned and put into play, and we're all going to be very glad to have it. So good work to the team on everything they did on that.
Okay, Councilmember Anderall.
I also toured the boiler building last week, and it is very cool. I echo that. And great job on using grant money and preserving a historic component that is actually, I think, going to be a real asset to the waterfront. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Becker.
Nothing to report.
All right, the next regular scheduled hybrid city council meeting will be on Tuesday, November 4th, beginning at 5 p.m. Time is now 6:48 p.m. As a reminder to council, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the broadcast. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.